Hey there folks, welcome to the Ramble. Sorry for making an audio-only video this time around, but I'm feeling a little under the weather, and I just didn't really feel up to appearing on camera. But I did write a little something for this episode of the Ramble, and I figured I would just read it to you. So here we go. Trumpcare is dead, at least for now. This is a good thing. But there are a few things we should remember in the aftermath of this episode. First and foremost, the threat of Trumpcare and the broader threat against marginalized Americans, of which Trumpcare was but a single component, persists as long as Donald Trump and Republican majorities in the House of Representatives and Senate remain in power. This is not a time for celebrating or claiming victory. This is a time for continuing to push and resist. There are two other lessons that I think are worth remembering. One is that Donald Trump is a liar and a failure. This isn't something of which most of the people watching this video need to be convinced, but it bears repeating nonetheless. Donald Trump campaigned on his genius for making deals, on his dependable ability to get other people to do what he wants them to do. He was going to clean up Washington. He was going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. He was going to fix or destroy bad trade agreements. He was going to defeat ISIS and protect us from terrorism. And he was going to repeal the Affordable Care Act and replace it with something much better. And he said it was going to be easy. Trump sold us himself as the dealmaker, as the closer. And yet here we are a few days after the sad, whimpering death of his first big legislative deal, a healthcare reform bill so universally despised that it didn't even make it to the floor of the House of Representatives for a vote. So much for the art of the deal. Sean Hannity, arguably the most enthusiastic cheerleader for Trump to not be directly employed by the administration, so far as we know, tried to argue on the night the vote on the bill was canceled that this was not Trump's failure, that Trump deserved no blame because he, quote, went above and beyond, did everything in his power to get this bill across the finish line. But that's the point. Trump did everything he could, and it wasn't enough. Trump the dealmaker, Trump the closer, threw himself behind the bill, personally lobbied members of Congress to vote for it, and in the end it still fell far short of the necessary support. If there's anyone out there who still believes in the myth of Trump the next level negotiator, I can only assume they live in the same alternative reality occupied by Trump himself. The other lesson from all this is even more important because it would be relevant no matter who the president was. Because if there's one thing this whole debacle should have taught us, it's that this is who the Republicans are. Take another look at the legislation. Take another look at the CBO analysis. Read 24 million more uninsured compared to the current law. Read about massive tax cuts for the wealthy and skyrocketing costs for the poor. Read about cuts to Medicaid, threatened mental health services, eliminated funding for Planned Parenthood, no more guaranteed coverage for maternity care. And never forget, this is who these people are. After 8 years of a Democratic presidency, finally empowered in both the legislative and executive branches, this act of savagery against women, those with mental health issues, and the poor was the first thing the elected officials of the Republican Party tried to do. And while you're thinking about that, keep this in mind too. The only reason this bill failed to attract enough support was because 36 Republicans refused to vote for it, and roughly half of them refused to vote for it because they thought it didn't go far enough. Many complained that the bill, which again would have deprived millions of Americans of health coverage, amounted to Obamacare light. Trump has already started to rewrite history, blaming the death of the bill on lack of support from Democrats, even though the bill was designed to be passable with only Republican support, and lying about never having made his repeated promises to repeal the Affordable Care Act immediately upon taking office. Paul Ryan and other congressional Republicans have fallen back on vague, reassuring bromides about the difficulty of accomplishing great things, and for now, the threat of repeal and replace has passed. But never forget what almost happened here. Never forget what could still happen. Never forget that if you are struggling to make it on a low income, if you're a woman, if you're a person with disabilities, if you're a person living with mental illness, if you're disadvantaged, marginalized, oppressed, these people do not care about you. These people will rob you, give your money to people who already have more than they could ever possibly need, and leave you to starve with nothing. And they will not lose a moment's sleep. Too harsh? Read about the bill again. Watch the interviews given by Trump, Ryan, and others who supported it. See how eager they were. See how happy they were when contemplating the prospect of gutting Medicaid and slashing health coverage mandates for women. And then you tell me. Remember who these people are. And on November 6, 2018, remind them who you are and vote. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for listening, I suppose I should say this time around. If you enjoyed this, please do like, share, and subscribe. And also, as always, please do consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again so much, and I'll see you next time.